Jake and Melissa had been on the road since sunrise, the endless stretches of highway blurring into one long, monotonous memory. They were headed cross-country to visit Jake's parents in Michigan, a trip they'd been promising to make for years. For the most part, the drive had been uneventful, just the usual banter, gas station coffee, and playlists to pass the time. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the last smear of orange faded into black, Route 19 seemed to change. The air grew colder, sharper, and the road itself, once wide and welcoming, narrowed into a twisting strip of asphalt, flanked on either side by walls of pine trees. Their branches curled inward, their dark silhouettes leaning closer as if to block out the sky. Melissa hugged her knees to her chest in the passenger seat, watching the world outside dissolve into a tunnel of shadows. "This road feels wrong," she muttered, her voice breaking the silence. Jake tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "It's just the forest. Roads like this always feel creepier at night." Melissa didn't answer. She stared at the trees, where every shadow seemed to twitch, where every gap in the branches hinted at something watching. It was close to midnight when Jake saw him. A figure stood at the edge of the road, half hidden in the swirl of Jake's headlights. A man in a faded denim jacket, thumb extended. His cap was pulled low over his face, his posture strangely stiff. For a moment, Jake thought he might just be a mile marker or a sign bent by the wind. But as the car drew closer, the figure shifted slightly, unmistakably human. Melissa sat up. "Don't stop. He could need help," Jake said, already easing his foot onto the brake. Melissa's voice sharpened. "Jake, it's the middle of nowhere at midnight. Please, don't stop." But Jake slowed anyway. He had grown up on stories of hitchhikers, of how dangerous it was to leave someone stranded on a highway like this, especially in freezing temperatures. What if the man froze to death overnight? What if he was genuinely in trouble? As they pulled alongside, the man lowered his arm and turned toward the car. His face was hidden in shadow, only the glint of his eyes visible under the brim of his cap. Jake rolled the window down an inch. "Need a ride?" he called. The man didn't speak. He only nodded once, slow and deliberate. Melissa shifted uncomfortably. "Jake." The stranger opened the back door and climbed in without a word. As soon as he settled into the seat, a chill swept through the car, so sudden and biting that Jake's breath fogged the windshield. Melissa pulled her jacket tighter around herself and turned to glance at him. "Where you headed?" Jake asked. The man didn't reply. He simply stared straight ahead, his face still obscured by the cap. Jake tried again. "We're going up toward Lansing." "You need a lift in that direction?" Nothing. Not even a nod this time. The silence grew heavy. Melissa couldn't shake the feeling that the man's gaze, though fixed forward, was somehow pressing against her, like he was studying her without moving his head. She leaned toward Jake and whispered, "This was a mistake." Jake shot her a look, as if to say, "What do you want me to do now?" But even he was starting to feel it. The wrongness, the way the air seemed heavier, colder, as though the stranger carried a piece of the night in with him. The miles crawled by. The only sound was the hum of the tires on the asphalt. Then Jake noticed something in the rearview mirror. The man's lips were moving. Slowly, deliberately, as if reciting something under his breath. But no sound came out. Jake leaned forward slightly, squinting at the reflection. He could almost make out the words. Over and over again, the same phrase, shaped silently on the man's mouth. "Don't look back." Jake's throat went dry. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. Melissa, sensing his tension, glanced back quickly and froze. The man's head snapped toward her in that instant, his face still hidden, but his lips continued to move. Whispering, silent, unrelenting. Melissa whipped around to face the windshield, her breath quick and shallow. "Jake, drive faster." Jake pressed the gas, the car lurching forward. The trees blurred into streaks of black, the road unfurling like an endless ribbon. But no matter how fast he drove, the cold clung to them, thick and suffocating. After what felt like hours, Jake finally pulled up to the address scrawled on the scrap of paper the man had handed him earlier. A small farmhouse sat back from the road, its windows dark, its porch light flickering weakly. Jake pulled to a stop and turned, forcing a shaky smile. "Here you are." The back seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. The seatbelt lay untouched, but the lingering chill told them he had been there. Melissa let out a strangled gasp. "Oh my God!" Jake, trembling, stumbled out of the car and rushed up to the farmhouse. He knocked on the door, pounding until it creaked open. An elderly woman stood there, wrapped in a shawl. Her face, tired and lined with age, brightened with confusion at the sight of him. "I'm sorry," Jake stammered. We picked up a hitchhiker. A man in a denim jacket. He gave us this address." The woman's expression drained of color. She gripped the doorframe for balance. "That's my son," she whispered. Her voice cracked like dry wood. "He died on this road 30 years ago." Melissa, still in the car, watched Jake stagger backward from the porch, his face ashen. And as he turned, he caught one last glimpse in the rearview mirror. The back seat wasn't empty. The man was there, grinning now, cap pushed back to reveal hollow, lifeless eyes. His lips still moved. Only this time, Jake heard the words, clear and rasping, carried on the cold air that filled the car. "Don't look back." The desert had a way of swallowing time. One moment, the college friends were laughing, music blaring from the speakers, headlights cutting through the pitch-dark Nevada highway. The next, silence had fallen, the gas gauge needle hovering dangerously close to empty. "Guys," Lauren said from the back seat, leaning forward, her phone flashlight sweeping over the dash. "We're almost out." Ben, who was driving, tightened his grip on the wheel. "There's supposed to be a station on this stretch. I checked earlier." "Yeah, like 50 miles back," Jamie muttered from the passenger seat. His leg bounced nervously. "We should have stopped." The desert outside was endless, an ocean of sand and scrub, broken only by the jagged silhouettes of mountains far in the distance. The road stretched on, unlit, unbroken. Even the stars above seemed faint, as if the desert had drained their light. Panic began to set in. The needle dipped below the red. Then, through the shimmering mirage of heat haze, even though it was long past midnight, they saw it. A neon sign. Faint. Flickering. Buzzing against the black canvas of night. "Holy shit," Ben breathed. "There. Gas station." Relief swept through the car. They cheered weakly, exhaustion and fear giving way to nervous laughter. The sign grew clearer as they approached. "Gas. Open 24 hours." The letters sputtered as if each one were barely clinging to life, but the glow was undeniable. The station looked ancient. 2 rusted pumps stood out front, paint peeling in long flakes. The building itself was squat and cracked, its windows yellowed from grime. The sign above the door was so weathered it was unreadable. Ben pulled in, gravel crunching beneath the tires. The engine gave a sickly cough as he shifted into park, like it was relieved to finally rest. They stepped out into the chill desert air. That's when they saw him. The attendant. He stood by the pumps before they'd even asked, as though he had been waiting. He was tall, impossibly thin, his uniform gray with dust, his hollow eyes sunk deep into his skull. Without a word, he took the nozzle and began to fill their tank. Nobody spoke at first. The silence pressed heavy, broken only by the sluggish chug of fuel. Thanks, Ben said finally. The attendant didn't answer. His gaze never left the pump. Uneasy, the group exchanged glances. "I need the bathroom," Lauren whispered, half to herself, and headed for the station. The door creaked when she pushed it open. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the scent of dust, and something older, like rot just beneath the surface. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, humming like trapped insects. She froze. The shelves were lined with snacks and sodas, but they weren't right. Bags of chips from brands she didn't recognize, their logos faded, colors muted. Candy bars wrapped in waxy paper instead of foil. Soda bottles capped with glass tops, labels so old they were peeling away, revealing nothing beneath. Some of the expiration dates, still barely visible, read 1982. Lauren's stomach turned. She backed toward the bathroom, hands trembling. The stall door creaked as she shut it. In the silence, she swore she heard something. Voices, muffled, like 100 whispers pressed against the walls. She leaned closer. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the shelves. When she stumbled back out, pale and shaking, the others were waiting in the car. The tank was full. The attendant stood exactly where they'd first seen him, nozzle in hand, eyes fixed on nothing. They paid in cash, nobody wanted to hand him a card, and peeled back onto the road. Relief filled the car again. They laughed nervously, teased Lauren about her pale face, and turned the music back on. But 20 minutes later, their laughter died. Up ahead, through the darkness, the faint buzz of neon glowed. The sign, the same flickering, dying letters. Gas, open 24 hours. No way, Jamie whispered. Ben slammed on the brakes. Gravel skidded beneath the tires. The car slowed to a crawl. There it was. The same cracked building. The same rusted pumps. The same gaunt attendant standing motionless by the pump, waiting. Lauren let out a strangled sob. No, no, no. That's impossible. We've been driving away from it for 20 minutes. Maybe there are 2 stations, Ben began, but even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. The cracked sign was the same. The peeling paint. The same smear of dead moths clinging to the window glass. This time, they didn't stop. Ben pressed the gas, swerving back onto the highway. The sign receded in the rearview mirror until it was swallowed by the desert night. Silence filled the car again. No one dared to speak. Then the radios came alive. Every single one. The stereo. Lauren's phone. Jamie's old Walkman tossed in the back seat. All of them switched on at once, static screaming through the speakers, sharp and violent, filling every corner of the car. They clamped their hands over their ears, shouting in panic. Then, beneath the static, a voice emerged. Low, steady, slow. A voice they all heard clearly, as though it spoke from inside their skulls. You shouldn't have left. The car swerved. Ben fought to keep it straight as the voice continued, louder, more insistent. You shouldn't have left. You shouldn't have left. The words overlapped, dozens of voices now, all chanting in unison, building, filling the car until it was unbearable. Then, silence. Dead silence. The radios clicked off. The road stretched ahead again, endless and empty. Nobody spoke for the rest of the drive. When they finally pulled into the next town, shaking and exhausted, they went straight to a diner, desperate for noise, for light, for people. The waitress gave them curious looks as they babbled their story, voices overlapping, words spilling out. But when they described the station, the peeling paint, the old snacks, the gone attendant, the waitress went pale. That place burned down, she whispered. 35 years ago. Nobody's worked those pumps since. Lauren felt the blood drain from her face. Ben looked back toward the highway. And for the briefest second, he swore he saw it again, the faint flicker of neon, pulsing against the night. Waiting. Michael had always loved the freedom of driving through the mountains. Ever since he got his license at 17, there was something about winding roads cutting through dense pines and sheer cliffs that made him feel alive. He was 27 in 2006, old enough to appreciate the solitude but young enough to take risks. His younger brother, Daniel, rode shotgun. They were headed to their cousin's wedding in Asheville, North Carolina, having left Pennsylvania in the late afternoon with a cooler full of sodas and a mixed CD that alternated between Springsteen and old grunge tracks. The trip was supposed to take 8 hours. But somewhere after midnight, deep in the Appalachian backroads where cell service cut out and the GPS kept blinking recalculating, things went wrong. It started subtly. Michael noticed how the forest seemed thicker than before, branches arched overhead like skeletal hands. The moon was bright, but the trees swallowed the light. Daniel dozed in the passenger seat, his head bobbing against the window. Michael hummed along with the music, his eyes fixed on the Tulane highway that twisted through endless dark. Then, around a bend, he saw them. At first, he thought it was just one truck. An old flatbed, rust chewing away at the fenders, brake lights dim and smeared with grime. But as he slowed, more came into view. Not one, not two, 5 trucks in total, lined up nose to tail. Each looked decades out of place, like something from a forgotten era. Rounded hoods, cracked windshields, faded paint. They all moved at the exact same slow, crawling speed, as if tethered together by an invisible chain. Michael groaned. Great. A damn parade of farm trucks at 1 in the morning. Daniel stirred. Huh. He blinked at the convoy. Where the hell did they come from? Beats me. Guess we're stuck behind them for a while. Michael tapped the brakes and followed. He waited for the chance to pass, but the trucks hugged the road tightly. No swerving, no hesitation. Just steady, relentless motion. What unsettled him wasn't just their slowness, it was the silence. No exhaust rumble, no engine noise. Just the low hum of his own car and the crunch of tires on asphalt. After 10 minutes, Michael grew impatient. He clicked the blinker and eased into the opposite lane, ready to overtake. But the line seemed endless. The curve of the road revealed another truck, then another, stretching further than it should. He pressed harder on the gas, his headlights sweeping across their rusted frames. Dude, how many are there? Daniel asked, leaning forward. His voice had lost its sleepy edge. 5. I counted 5. Feels like more. Michael frowned. It did feel that way. He accelerated, but no matter how far he pushed, the line refused to end. The 5th truck seemed to slide forward like a mirage, always just out of reach. Frustrated, he swerved back into his lane before an oncoming curve swallowed the road. The clock on the dashboard read 12:47 a.m. When he glanced again, after what felt like only a few minutes, it read 2:53. Wait, what? He tapped the glass as if the numbers were wrong. Did your watch stop? Daniel checked. His cheap digital watch blinked the same time, 2:53. Michael's stomach dropped. He swore it had been no more than 20 minutes since they first saw the trucks. Yet nearly 2 hours had vanished. Daniel tried to laugh it off. Guess time flies when you're behind a convoy of clunkers. But his voice was strained, brittle. He kept glancing at the trucks, his leg bouncing against the floor. They drove on. The forest pressed closer. The road narrowed. And still the trucks crawled ahead, brake lights never flickering, never dimming. Not once did a window roll down. Not once did a face appear in a rearview mirror. By 3:30, Michael's nerves frayed. He slammed the wheel. Screw this. I'm passing them. I don't care how long it takes. He floored the gas. The engine roared, headlights flaring across the first truck's rusted bumper. He surged into the opposite lane, heart hammering. One truck passed. Then another. His knuckles went white against the wheel. Come on, come on. But just as he reached the 4th, the 5th loomed again, impossibly far. The line stretched like it was multiplying, birthing new trucks from the shadows. He could feel Daniel's panic rising beside him. Mike, pull back. Pull back, man. With a curse, Michael swerved hard into his lane, missing the guardrail by inches. His chest heaved. His palms dripped with sweat. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the trucks rolled forward, steady and endless. Then, at 4:02 a.m., the road curved sharply around a mountainside. The trucks disappeared behind the bend. Michael gritted his teeth. This is it. He floored the pedal, tires screaming as they shot around the curve. The car shuddered, headlights carving across the blacktop. He expected to see the line stretching ahead. But the road was empty. Completely, utterly empty. Not a single taillight. Not a smear of exhaust. The lane ahead was dark and clean, as if nothing had ever been there. Daniel's breathing hitched. Where'd they go? Michael slowed, searching desperately. But there was nothing. Just the whisper of wind through pines and the hollow echo of their tires. They pulled into a gas station an hour later, dawn bleeding pale over the mountains. The clerk behind the counter was a grizzled man in a flannel shirt, eyes ringed with sleepless shadows. Michael, still shaken, tried to sound casual. You ever see convoys up in these mountains? Old trucks, maybe from the 50s. The clerk froze. His hand hovered above the cash drawer. Slowly he shut it. You boys saw them. His voice was low, final. That convoy's been rolling these roads since before I was born. Folks say they're the ones who never made it out. Farmers, truckers, soldiers, don't matter. They got stuck. Somewhere between here and somewhere else. Michael swallowed hard. What happens if you follow them? The clerk's eyes flicked up, pale and hollow. Some drivers try. They never come back. Silence stretched heavy between them. Daniel pulled Michael's arm, urging him toward the door. Outside, the rising sun washed the parking lot in gold. But even in the daylight, Michael couldn't shake the image. Brake lights glowing like dying embers, an endless procession of ghosts on wheels. And every time he closed his eyes on the road after that, he swore he could still hear the soft rumble of tires behind him, steady, crawling, waiting.